I really like Dr. Wesh's video. It's a really good video. This is actually like the second time that I've seen this. Last year when I was at K-State, I actually had the opportunity to take a class with him, and we went over this subject matter. So I got to actually see his whole spiel in person, and he's a really great teacher. But a couple ideas that I took away from this video that I thought were important is how webcams connect us to a community. And I think, one example of this that, is really true, especially in like education, you can be having a conference meeting with like a teachers organization, and you could be teachers from different schools, and instead of just communicating through face-to-face, like it's a meeting in a different town and everybody has to travel to meet there, which can be difficult, everybody's busy, and instead of just email or calling over the phone, you can do like a Skype conference meeting, and everybody's able to see everybody's face, and it gives you that somewhat face-to-face meaning of the conversation, but you can do it in the comfort of your own home, which I think that's pretty neat. Digital text is not only about text, but we can now link people together in a way that we never have before. So that's another idea that I thought was, so true, because, look back 30 years ago. I mean, no one would have ever thought that there would be this little touchscreen device in your hand that you can text, hey, what's up, and then press send, and then within a minute it's in your friend's hand who lives 45 miles away. I mean, or even across the world. It's just technology's developed so dramatically, and I think that's a really solid point. I felt like I was really able to relate to a lot of his message, especially this last point, which was when media changes, so do human relations. And I think that's relatable because, how you look back at the way people communicate today compared to 15 years ago, it's a complete 180. Like, instead of, I want to hang out or I want to catch up with my friend, I'm going to go over to his house and have face-to-face conversation. Now I can, hit a button, I'm FaceTiming him, I can Snapchat him, I can text him, I can message him on just about any form of social media, and we're able to stay interconnected, and we do lose that aspect of face-to-face, contact and conversation, but at the same time, like, we don't have to even leave our own home, whereas 15 years ago people were more likely to go over to their friend's house and talk to them if they needed to talk, instead of just call them on the phone. As a future teacher, I recognize that media's it's always changing and adapting, and it's in my best interest to make sure I stay up to date on it and informed, to be able to understand what types of media these students are using, and understand how they're communicating and everything. The video that I watched was a TED Talk, and it was about teaching kids for mastery and not scores. And basically the video talks about how through our educational system, we have a new subject, and then we lecture, notes, quiz, test. And then once we're done with that, whatever score they get, we move on, new subject, and then it's the same thing over and over. And what it talks about is, one kid may get 100 on the test, but the other kid got a 55. And so that kid that got a 55, that 45% that he didn't understand, when we move on to the new subject, he's left behind. And then as he gets older and into upper level classes, say in high school or college, that material that he got a 55 on, he still doesn't know the other 45%. So he's going to be behind now that he's moved on to different level classes in the future. And it just talks about, instead of going for test scores, we need to teach to master the whole concept. And so now kids are, we're making sure that they know everything that we're talking about before we move on to the next concept, and not just go for a test score. I think that the podcast can be very useful for class. because they're free, and they're very easily accessible. And one thing that I think is, it's useful for kids when we're reading a subject matter if they can listen to it as well. So like they can have the podcast going and the kids read along with it. And when I had teachers do it when I was in school, it was really helpful, because I would be, if there's no sound and I'm just reading through something, I'm going to be like, get down bottom of the page, I'm like, what did I just read? Whereas when you're listening to it and reading along at the same time, it kind of just gives you a double advantage on just trying to grasp the concept. For my bookmarking tool, I use Digg. It was really easy to get around and navigate, and there was plenty of really good articles, and it was easy to save them. This would definitely be useful in education for if I'm at the beginning of the semester and there's a subject matter that I'm going to go over at the end of the semester, but I'm just on the web and I find this great article. Instead of me trying to print it off or try and save it some other way, I can just go on a website like Digg, and I'll be able to find that article. I can save it, and then in the couple months when we're ready to go over that subject matter, I can go ahead and go to my folder where I saved it, and it'll still be there, and then I can use it for my class and my students to read. As far as social media goes, yes, I think that there's definitely a place for it in school. It has to be in moderation. I mean, with social media and those types of websites, there's always the risk of immature actions and inappropriate material, but at the same time there's a lot of room for good fun activities that you can use, and a lot of good material on there as well. So I think for upper level ages like high school, maybe even junior high, this is a good idea. You can find plenty of fun activities to use for that. Lower level, like pre-K to elementary school, probably gonna avoid using that. YouTube is one that could be used at the lower levels, but when you get into your Twitters and stuff like that, I definitely avoid it.